it has started to rain in the desert known as Episode 9 Movie News. It's my Nerd World. Welcome to it. I'm your host, Jon Justice. Special breaking promotional material leak podcast. There will still be a regular podcast this weekend, but I couldn't wait for the weekend to talk about these images that were leaked online this morning. I don't want to waste any time. Let's get right to it in this special bonus podcast.
Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you. Just let it in.
So I'm at work this morning. I'm a talk radio host here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Twin Cities News Talk, and I have I have some links open during the commercial breaks. Of course, during the commercial breaks, I would never look at this stuff when I was live on the air. Why would I go and do such a thing? Anyway, so during the commercial breaks, I happened to pop over to, I was on Twitter, surprisingly. I had the Reddit leaks page open, but this actually leaked on Twitter. So I want to say it was Screen Rant that first put this image out, okay? And it looked to be a promotional poster for Episode 9. Here's what threw me off, okay? Because the poster itself, and I'm going to go through every little detail of this poster, it didn't have me convinced that it was real at first. As a matter of fact, using the My Nerd World account, I immediately responded that I thought this was fake. And the reason I thought it was fake was because there wasn't anything in the poster that I hadn't heard or seen before, right? Kind of under the impression that if we were going to see some type of poster or image, that there would be something new in it that we haven't seen before. Now, that being said, upon further investigation, I'm actually really wrong about that, because there are some things in this poster that I hadn't seen before. The way that it was put together was, I was a little suspect. It still looked really good. So at first I poo-pooed it, and I was like, no, man, this looks fake. This looks like somebody that combined even some concept art along with the leaks and then put a really well-done poster together. Okay. Then I started looking at it further, and I began to realize that the things that I were seeing that I thought were older leaks, like there is one particular new alien on the poster in the upper left-hand corner, kind of this brownish-looking alien, that was in the leak that showed a bunch of promotional stills that we got about a month ago. And I was like, well, that just seems randomly thrown up in there, right? That we saw that almost exact image in that leak. But then I'm looking at some other items, and I'm going, well, wait a second. The angles on these are wrong. We've seen these certain things before, but not at this angle. Okay. Then I went to the source website, and they had put up a link, and I believe it was Screen Rant. And again, I have to apologize if I'm wrong. I don't have Twitter open at the moment. But they had like a top 10 things that we noticed about this poster, right? And Twitter's just exploded since then. And the thing that really convinced me that this was real was the fact that they also had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a photo of 7 of the characters from the film. And these are clearly not photoshopped. You got Lando, Chewbacca, Rey, Poe, Finn, Zori, which is, from our understanding is, and this is filled with leaks, by the way, so if you don't want to know anything about the movie, then move on. But Zori is the Kerry Russell character. And then Jannah, Jannah, played by Naomi Ackie, holding a crossbow. And they're in the photo and in the poster, but what was different was the character, so the new characters of Zori and Jannah in the character lineup photo, they are also on the poster, but the angles are different. And so that's what convinced me, oh, this is actually very legit. Then I felt really stupid because the phone case that I have is a phone case for The Last Jedi. And when I turned my phone over, it is clearly the same company that made this promotional poster that made the image for my Last Jedi iPhone 7 phone case. And people have been pointing this out online. They've been showing how this is not the official poster. This is clearly the type of poster that you're going to see at your Target or your Walmart or something that goes on a phone case. The other thing that kind of stuck out to me, too, was the fact that there is no title on the poster. It just says Star Wars. So for me, knowing that this is legit clearly tells me that, okay, they knew they're not going to give the title up yet. This is going to be promotional stuff. They're putting out promotional material. So this is going to be the first of many. And this has happened for every Star Wars release since the Disney purchase, right? They're going to put out promotional stuff to get ready to be printed that won't have the title on it because they're holding back on the title. Okay, so that is 6 minutes and 20 seconds of me explaining why these photos are completely legit. Now, let's go ahead and just dive into it, and I'll give you my thoughts. And really, there's a lot to digest in this photo that I'm having a difficult time sort of figuring out where I'm going to start. So what I'm going to start off with is the characters. I'm going to start off, let's get through the character photo first, and then we'll dive into the poster, and we'll start from the bottom of the poster and work our way towards the top. Because sort of looking at the images in terms of significance, that seems to be the best way to handle it. Okay, so looking at the posters, at the character picture. First we have Lando. He has his cape. He has his yellow shirt. This is very similar to the leak that we got about a month ago. Looks good. Looks very much like an older Lando lifted from the Solo movie. He looks really, really good. And I like the fact that they're using the same yellow that was attached so much to the Donald Glover character played in the Solo movie. I think that's a nice touch. Chewbacca, he's got his crossbow, his bandolier looks normal. Then you have Rey. Rey looks fantastic. And I mentioned this before, and I hope if you hear this, don't listen to what I'm saying, because I've mentioned this on a previous podcast, and I want to make sure that that you're not hearing me trying to be insulting, because I'm not. Rey looks fit in this picture. I'm of the opinion in The Last Jedi that it's either camera angles or scenes that were shot during reshoots or two different times. But Rey looks very different throughout The Last Jedi, in my opinion. Not very different. There's subtle differences. There's some scenes where she looks a lot buffer. She looks more in shape. And there's other scenes where she looks a lot thinner, closer to how she looked in The Last Jedi. It's really, really minor. I only point that out because this image that they have of Rey in all white, very similar outfit to what she wore through the majority of The Force Awakens on Jakku. She's holding her the Legacy Saber. Obviously, got the Legacy Saber back. She's reforged it, and just standing there in this stance that looks fierce. Many people are pointing to the similarities with Padme, and I absolutely agree, especially the pants that she's wearing. She looks great. The next picture is of Poe Dameron. We've seen some images of Poe looking this way. He has sort of an adventurous, swashbuckling look, holding a blaster. He's got a tan shirt on and like a scarf around his neck. Then we see also an image of John Boyega holding a blaster. Looks very much like some of the behind-the-scenes photos that we've seen before. Blue pants, kind of similar to Han Solo in A New Hope. Hair's a little bit longer, but he looks fantastic. Then you get to Zori. And I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's Zorii. So you had Kerry Russell was on one of the late night talk shows, and she was actually talking about her character and how cool her outfit was. There's been some description leaks already about the outfit. A lot of individuals saying that is very reminiscent to Zam Wesell, or Weasel, or however you say it, from Attack of the Clones, and they're absolutely right. So you have this purple outfit accented with this gold and this helmet that has a front looking very reminiscent of a Mandalorian helmet with an extended back, sort of elongated back like a biker helmet, holding a blaster. The outfit looks really cool. It looks very prequel, in my opinion, and mostly because of the bounty hunter connection to Zam in Attack of the Clones. But I do love that it's very, very reminiscent of that. The Jannah character, or Jannah, played by Naomi Ackley, looks fierce. She's got this crossbow-looking thing that is not something to be messed with. It's incredibly beefy, has a long sort of tan cape, big hair. This was not a character that I knew much about and really had thought all that much about, but seeing her now in this character lineup and then also seeing her showcased on the poster as well has me, just based off of the look alone, really excited about this character. All right, so let's get into the poster, because there really is a lot to unpack here. Okay, so we'll start off with the bottom. The bottom just has the yellow Star Wars logo. Now, that is significant because nobody's pointed it out yet. At least I haven't seen anybody point it out on Reddit. But this is the first time that we've seen officially the words Star Wars attached to anything Episode 9. Now, there is no Episode 9 on the logo. It's just Star Wars in yellow. No idea if that means that is what the logo is going to be in the major marketing material, but I do believe that I personally think there's a level of significance here, considering it's not purple, it's not green, it's not blue, it's yellow. Okay, above that, this is where things get rolling. We've got, I don't even know here, 20? 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Yeah, 20, 30 red stormtroopers, First Order troopers, right? Okay, so here's my theory on this. All these troopers have the split nose that we saw on some of the crew gear that was given to them after they wrapped the film, right? So this is very much reminiscent of the clone troopers from the original trilogy. Certainly, from the prequel trilogy. Certainly the ones that we saw in Revenge of the Sith. So this is, above them, you do see the regular standard white First Order troopers. Okay, so there is obviously some major significance to these troopers. I would not at all be surprised if we end up finding out that these are actually clones. I would really, really dig that. I love the idea that for some reason, Kylo Ren or somebody started developing a clone army that ties directly back into that comment that Kylo Ren said in The Force Awakens of talking about Snoke and using a clone army. And it would be a direct callback to the prequel trilogy of a clone army being developed in secret, unbeknownst to everybody else, and even everybody within the First Order. And the fact that their masks are significant in that way, I find very revealing. Now, I could be wrong. I just think that would be an amazing callback. But I am really excited to know how in the world we have an entire army of red stormtroopers, First Order troopers now, after only like a year, because we know that this is only supposed to have been like a year between films. They look just fantastic, and I love the red motif. I loved the red motif in The Last Jedi. Watched that again over the weekend. My gosh, I love that movie so much. It's interesting, though, this red's a little bit different, too. Like, it's just subtle enough. It's more of like a flat red. If you saw the leaked image or the Instagram image of John Boyega with the colored red helmet that he got as a gift after wrapping the film that had the Spider-Man web on it, right? It's that type of red. Looks great. Okay, so then above that, on both left and right sides, you got a big image of Kylo Ren, and we'll get to that in a minute. But on the left and right, sort of flanking above the red First Order troopers. On the left-hand side, you got a couple of TIE fighters and a Star Destroyer. Actually, a couple of Star Destroyers in the background. Okay. Then you go to the right side of the page, and this is what threw me off when I first saw the poster and why I thought it was a fake. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 6 or 7 stormtroopers, white regular clone trooper. I keep getting it wrong. First Order troopers, right? Then off to the right, a little bit above, you have 2 finalizer-looking Star Destroyers. Okay. And I'll mention, just for the sake of argument, right above, this is all black, and it's got black Starscape behind it. It morphs into what looks like tall trees. That could just be the way that they decided to fade from the black to white of the rest of the poster going up. But I think that also could be very indicative of this jungle or forest planet that we're supposed to be visiting. But on the right-hand side, there's a TIE fighter that is directly, well, upon first inspection, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to go grab the book here in just a second. It looks like a TIE fighter that was in the concept art for The Force Awakens. Okay, and sure enough, my suspicions were correct. I paused the show for a moment, and I went and I got my Force Awakens art book, and you don't got to go just a couple pages in, and there's some concept art, 2 full pages, and has the Millennium Falcon being chased by these TIE fighters that have these triangle wings. Now, looking at the poster art, there's actually 2 in the picture here, and then a regular looks like a First Order TIE fighter up behind it. There is some subtle differences in the concept art versus the one that's on this poster. So that had initially, like I said, been the reason why I had thought that this was not real, because that looked like it was lifted directly from the concept art book, like somebody had thrown it together. But now looking back at the original concept art, they are clearly different. And it even looks like on the outside of the triangle wings, the panels, there's actually another set on either side, smaller. So that's cool. I don't know what else to say. I'm so geeked out right now. We know we're getting the TIE Echelon, most likely, from what we've seen in Galaxy's Edge, right? Some of the Imagineers giving a tour to the press of Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland. There's a full scale new TIE Fighter Echelon that looks a bit like a combination of a TIE Fighter, Vader's TIE Fighter, and Kylo Ren's First Order shuttle, and a little bit of the Rogue One shuttle that we saw as well. This is very different. The cockpit actually looks reminiscent to the Brute, the TIE Brute that was in the Solo movie. Okay, so that's on the right-hand side. You also see the troopers, and then again on the left-hand side, you got a couple more TIE fighters and a couple more Star Destroyers. All right, sticking on the left, here's where we get the big one. And that's the Knights of Ren. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 Knights of Ren, and then we'll get to Kylo Ren, who's center. Rey and Kylo are center of this poster, and I'll get to that. I went back and looked at not just the Force-back scene from The Force Awakens, but also went back to the artwork in the concept art book, The Art of the Force Awakens. The positioning of the Knights of Ren in the poster is different than what is in the art book, and also different than what we saw in The Force Awakens, even though it looks like they all match up in terms of design aesthetic, which would make sense. If we're getting the Knights of Ren, we assume that was the Knights of Ren. We assume this is the Knights of Ren. I don't know who else it would be. And I believe it's been confirmed in the Force-back that those were the Knights of Ren in the Force-back scene. This is clearly them in the poster. Jason Ward over at MakingStarWars.net had put up a post about this, saying that apparently each of them have special abilities. Each of the Knights of Ren do. I don't believe that they're Force wielders necessarily, however. So I had to take a pause from the podcast, and so there's a little bit of, and it's a good thing I did, because there's some new information that's actually been released since I started doing the recording. So a few more comments on the Knights of Ren. I can't put my finger on why the Knights of Ren are so compelling, because they are, right? To the point where I'm just now wrapping up the follow-up to my science fiction space opera novel, Embark, which will be released here in the next few months. And I actually added a trio of characters inspired by the Knights of Ren. They're not the Knights of Ren. They're you'll find out in the book, and if you've seen the artwork for the cover, you've already seen them on the cover. I have some specific names for them, but again, writing the things that make me happy and the things that I'm interested in, the things that bring me joy. I was inspired by this idea of a group of assassins, or, a team of galactic hunters, if you will. We don't know anything about the Knights of Ren, and I think it's that mystery that we all find so intriguing. It's what drew so many of us to Boba Fett from the original trilogy, because we just didn't know anything about him. And I guess this pushes back a little bit on Disney and Lucasfilm not releasing any information, but I like that mystery. I'm the kind of person that doesn't really care to know right now immediately what Snoke's background is. I'm fine to find that out whenever. I don't need to find it in the book, and I like things left a bit of a mystery. The Knights of Ren were put out there. That one little scene in the that Force back scene from The Force Awakens was just intriguing. We saw them in the art book, and everyone's like wondering who they are. And so there's just something really interesting about a group of dark knights. So to see them in the poster and to know they're going to play a portion of this, to play a significant role in this film, has me really excited. All right, so moving over in the poster, we do have both Rey and Kylo featured prominently in this promotional poster. Kylo Ren has his helmet put back together, and it looks very much like people have described. Seeing it officially now and zooming in on the photograph, you can see the visible cracks and how they're pieced together with some type of red adhesive. And you can even tell at the top, and this was what I was worried about, depending on how they were going to go and reconstruct the helmet based off of him destroying in The Last Jedi, it's clear that there's like denting in the helmet itself, on the right side and the upper right side of the helmet, where it crosses over some of the reflective material on the top of the helmet. It looks like it's almost banged in some parts where it's pieced back together. The outfit looks very much like we've seen. The cape and the hood is back. In the photograph, he's not. In the poster, the hood's not on. Lightsaber looks the same, his tri-saber. He is holding it in reverse, which I think is interesting. We haven't seen him do that yet, so he's got the... Instead of holding it with the blade, focusing out, he's holding it like Ahsoka would. Is probably the best example I can give. The image looks really, really amazing. To the right of Kylo Ren, you do have Poe Dameron looking exactly the same way he does in the character picture that we saw. To the right of Poe is the I keep blanking on her name. Kerry Russell. I don't know why I keep blanking on her name. I'm so excited to see these photos. We have the Kerry Russell assassin to the right, and again, this image is different than the one that we saw in the character lineup photo. Right, it's a different angle. And in the other photo, she's holding the blaster. In this one, it's holstered. You can definitely see more of the purple in her outfit in that in the poster. To the right of her, you see BB-8, and then you see the little single-wheeled cone-shaped droid. And it's interesting because the way that the droid is pointed has me curious which way the face is. So it has this cone head with this green tip on it, but it's turned looking at BB-8, so I can't tell, and then it's got two antennas going out the other side. And I would assume that the point of the cone would be the nose, and in the image is actually looking at BB-8. But I'll be honest, on first glance, it looked like the wider end of the cone head was actually the front. But going back to that other image that we saw before in that leak from a couple weeks ago, I do think that the more pointy end is the front of that droid. Okay, so we're going to move up on the right-hand side above the Zori character. Is that what we called her? I got to go back to I haven't looked at these enough yet to know for certain. Let me see here. The Zorii, the Zori character. So above the Zori character is the Jannah character, sort of a profile view with her tan cape flowing out. And she looks great, and this is where the new information comes in. Because, like I mentioned, there's been some new details that have dropped since I started the podcast. This comes from Slash Film. Our sources have told us that Jannah was kidnapped as a child to be turned into a stormtrooper. We're not sure if she ever became one, but it looks like maybe she escaped and has been living on her own, not unlike Rey. Another image of the character features her holding a bow and arrow. We're not sure how handy that's going to be in a fight against Laser Blast, but she looks like a badass warrior. Possibly would explain how Finn and Jenna are siblings from a previous leak. So that's it. She looks great. And again, that's got me really excited because, I didn't really have a thought of this character. So just see these images of this new character, depending on how big of a role that they're going to end up playing in the movie. The design in and of itself has me really excited. Okay, so you got Chewbacca to her left, looking like Chewbacca. Now here's where some stuff that I like gets it interesting before we get to Rey on the left-hand side of the poster. We have shooting up the poster. And we'll start from the very top and we'll move down to the right. We've got a new X-Wing fighter that looks to be almost all orange and white. This would absolutely match the leaked photo from MakingStarWars.net of the overhead shot that they took on location of a new orange TIE fighter. So it's almost the reverse paint scheme, almost like a color negative paint scheme of what Poe Dameron had. I'm looking at Poe Dameron's X-Wing. So in the X-Wing, where he had black, it would be orange, and where it was orange is now white. To the right of that is an A-Wing fighter. Same A-Wing fighter that we saw in The Last Jedi, just based off of the elongated front. Does have the triangle on it that somebody had pointed out was also seen in Rebels, which I thought was interesting. It is blue, so it looks very similar to what Tali Lindra's A-Wing looked like, except it's got a white triangle at the front surrounded by blue. To the right of that is a Y-Wing. Now, it's really hard to tell based off of the poster because it's a little bit grainy when you zoom in, and I haven't seen a clearer picture of it yet. It looks to be a standard original trilogy A-Wing. There is some coloring on the cockpit, on the nose. And it looks like the thrusters right and left might be a little bit different. And so on the A-Wing, you got the thrusters, and then it has the elongated sort of negative space, right, that makes up the tail of the engines. That looks to be longer in the photo than what we're used to seeing on a standard A-Wing, but I could absolutely be wrong about that. I'm just excited we get an A-Wing. Speaking of vehicles, on the far left side of the page, you do have a regular standard sequel trilogy X-Wing fighter flying across the screen. And then in the middle of the frame, flying right to left, is the Millennium Falcon. So you see that as well. Okay. Before we get to the left-hand side into Rey, and a couple of things of note there, I do want to point out, I do find this a little interesting. The background on the poster itself, when you get up to Rey in the top part of the poster where the vehicles are, has the very specific pill-shaped lighting that is synonymous with originally the Death Star, but with Empire/New Order backgrounds, right, on the ships. So not a huge surprise there. Obviously, that's, indicative of being on some type of First Order transport or ship of some kind. If I go back and look at my artwork on the back of my phone that's done clearly by the same company that did this, there really isn't anything similar there to kind of point to in regard to that, because I'm trying to extrapolate between what they showed in terms of importance on my phone image to what they showed here, and really to make any correlation is probably irrelevant. It's clearly the same company. I mean, you see them side by side, and I would love to see 3 of these images, bam, 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 from the company of this type of promotional poster, because I think they would look really, really well together. They'd go really well together. How they look, it's so similar and uniform in design. Not unlike the if you take the special edition posters for the original trilogy and you put them all side by side, they all blend into one another. There's also, in my opinion, something very similar that could happen with these particular pieces of art. But I just thought it was noteworthy that in this photo you do have that very distinctive pill-shaped wall design that we see in the Death Star and on First Order vehicles. Okay, getting to the left-hand side of the poster, we have that goofy-looking alien that I mentioned earlier. He's just weird. I don't know. He's the thing that sticks out the most to me in the poster just because he looks so odd. Hopefully it's got it's a very weird design. It's got no neck and sort of no nose with big bug eyes and these on either side, 3 long sort of tendril things on either side, and he's kind of this blob shape. I don't know what kind of significance he plays. I'm assuming it's some type of comedic element. Obviously, he has some importance because he's on the poster, but he's goofy looking. Not really cool looking. Only way I can describe him is goofy looking. Then you have Finn. Finn looks fantastic. The jacket looks great, holding a new blaster, looking very intense. This lines up with what we heard in one of the leaks, and at C-3PO, not only is he holding Chewie's bowcaster, but it also looks like he's got Rey's staff on his back, and he's holding a bandolier. Chewbacca's bandolier. And there's something about that. And obviously there's something about it because it's going to be in the movie. But that to me there's something very significant about why C-3PO is holding those 3 items. Right? Chewie's bowcaster, Chewie's bandolier, and Rey's staff, assuming that's Rey's staff. We'll find out, but I just wanted to kind of stop for a second and go, that's not just him holding it for them, right? Sort of the immediate default will be, well, he's holding their weapons because they're getting a bite to eat or taking a bathroom break. No, I think there's more. I think there's more to it than that. And unless the individuals that originally leaked that saw this particular piece of art, which is possible, then there's other art there other art that's been made that shows this. In which case, it just sort of adds to its significance, right? Okay. Then we get to the big one, and that's Rey in sort of the center spot of the poster in and of itself. Somebody had tweeted at me, "Hey, what do you think of the poster? I think it's rather significant that you have Rey and Kylo so prominent." They are sharing equal amounts of space. As a matter of fact, I would kind of argue that Kylo Ren is actually more prominent. The lower half is definitely, right, the villains. Okay, the upper half is definitely the heroes. We don't really know where Carrie Russell's, I remembered her name, where Carrie Russell's character plays into it in terms of her being a bounty hunter. But it really does seem like that the lower half of this really sticks out, and Kylo seems a little bit more prominent. I'll just say it again. Rey looks fantastic. She really does. I love that character. And she looks, and this, I should have made this point before when I had the awkward conversation about her, for lack of a better term, her weight difference in The Last Jedi, because there's the different scenes. She looks slightly heavier. She looks fantastic through that whole movie, and in no way, shape, or form am I criticizing her looks at all. There's just some parts of The Last Jedi where she looks really thin, especially that final shot when she closes the Falcon door on Kylo Ren, compared to, say, when she first meets Luke Skywalker on Ahch-To at the beginning, and he's sitting down outside the hut and she's talking to him. She looks very different in both of those, and it could just be the camera angle. This, she looks very similar to The Force Awakens in terms of her, of how, of just her appearance, right? Which would make sense, and I mentioned this in a previous podcast, specifically because they're going to have to match, most likely, some of her performance with some of the older performance from The Force Awakens with Carrie Fisher, so it would make a heck of a lot more sense that they have her closely designed, not just the way that she looks, but her hair's back in the 3 buns, and also her outfit as well. She's holding her lightsaber sort of, Kylo Ren's got his lightsaber down, holding it in reverse, and she's got her lightsaber going the other direction, but holding it long ways and angled down a little bit. Interesting thing to note, if you zero in on the lightsaber, She's holding it with both of her hands. In between both of her hands is what appears to be a brown band. I'm going to zoom in on it. That would be exactly where she would have had to have gone and reforged it. It looks like that is the legacy saber, but that was absolutely where it would have split, and she put it back together again. So I thought that was also pointed out by somebody on Reddit. I hadn't. Yeah, and actually there's a higher quality image here. If I can go ahead and open this up, I'm wondering if I can actually see the better image that somebody posted here. Hold on. Let's go here. Why is the link not working? Okay, so it wasn't a newer quality image. There's a larger image that's the photo, that's the poster crop, but it's not the whole poster in better quality. So it's not anything that I can post or get more detail at. And quite honestly, I don't know what else I'd be able to pull from even a higher resolution poster apart from getting a little bit more of the detail on the spaceships in the background, because I really would love to get a better look at not just the Knights of Ren, but also of that Y-Wing in the background. So, look, obviously, I want to know what you think. Talked about this on last week's show or the show before. Talked about how, in the past, Disney and Lucasfilm, specifically Lucasfilm, has intentionally gone and leaked stuff. Do you think maybe somebody let this out from Disney intentionally to kind of get everybody ready? You know, I'm glad we got something. If this is an actual leak, I'm going to say it again. I think it's a mistake that Disney is holding out for as long as they are, because this is the kind of stuff that happens. Now, I'm sure they're probably fine with this. This is official images. But also, is this what Disney and Lucasfilm want the fans to first be seeing of the new movie? Is that really their intention, or they just kind of go, it's going to happen, that's going to end up on the Reddit pages and on the podcast, we don't care. This is being made for a wider audience. I went on Knights of Vader with Zach this week, and that actually should be up tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this on Thursday. We talked about the marketing of it. Zach's got a marketing degree and had a really good conversation with him on Knights of Vader, just talking about mass marketing and who these movies are being marketed for, and how, you know, they don't really care nearly as much for individuals like you or I that are getting into the deep into the details on these films. But I definitely want to hear from you and your thoughts on what these images show you. Does it get you more excited for it? Is this what you're hoping for? Are the designs what you want to see? Someone just posted on Reddit, I just refreshed, the new Resistance A-Wing is basically the Ralph McQuarrie one, and they're absolutely right. I'm looking at artwork of Ralph McQuarrie, and the Ralph McQuarrie A-Wing is closer with the Last Jedi A-Wing, which is what I'm convinced they designed the Last Jedi A-Wing on, and now they've gone so far as to add the original artwork from the Ralph McQuarrie artwork back when he originally created those for Return of the Jedi. I'm looking at a photo right here, and it shows that exact artwork with the white triangle on the front of the A-Wing. So, oh man, I love being a Star Wars fan. I am super excited. Once I found out this was legit, I'll be honest, I had a really hard time even focusing on doing the show. I got so excited over these images and couldn't wait to get home to record and get my initial thoughts. And clearly, I'm kind of all over the place with the podcast. So I want to hear from you, because I want to talk about this more on this week's show. I'll be recording it on Saturday. There's a ton of listener feedback already that I have banked away. This is obviously going to be the topic number one on this weekend's podcast, so it'll be super helpful for you to go and drop me a message, talkshownerd@gmail.com, or leave me a comment on YouTube, and I'll add that to the listener feedback this week, and maybe we just do a big listener feedback show and talk about this artwork if there isn't any more leaked info that comes out between now and then. We're just a couple of weeks away from Celebration, and this will hold me over absolutely until we get to Celebration. But again, I want to hear from you. So drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com, and or on YouTube, and we'll get into more of this coming up on Saturday during the regular show this week. Quick reminder, again, thank you for those that have bought the book. If you haven't, go pick up Embark. Great read. Look, if you're traveling, this is good. This is fantastic. If you're traveling to Celebration and you're looking for some good reading material, kind of get you in the Star Wars mood that's not Star Wars, man, I would really encourage you, please go get the ebook for Embark on Amazon. You might be able to get the paperback shipped to you in time, or download the audiobook and listen to it. I narrated it. It's 12 hours long, so if you're driving, you've got more than enough time to listen to it. It is not a Star Wars story. It was inspired by Star Wars. It's a story about a boy who loves a girl. It's in the future here on Earth. Earth is facing an industrial apocalypse, and there is a corporate madman that tries to go and take advantage of the pending disaster. The hero, Taft Guardia, is swept into a mystery with the girl that he loves, Keith Amaro, and he and his friends then unwittingly are thrust into this battle for the future of humanity while humanity tries to go and escape to the stars. I just finished up the follow-up book. The editing process has begun. I'm super excited to get it out there, but this is a fantastic read to go and fill some time as you wait for more Star Wars information. So go to Amazon.com right now, search for Embark and Jon, Jon Justice, and pick up a copy of the book, either the ebook, get it for a friend, the audiobook, or the paperback. I'd really, really appreciate it. So drop me a comment on this artwork. I think that's it. I'll refresh one more time to make sure I'm not missing anything. But I got some other stuff to do. I haven't even had lunch since I got home from work today, so I was so excited to get on and record this podcast. Looking forward to hearing from you. Have yourself a fantastic few days, and I will talk to you again for the official show this weekend. So until then, enjoy the photos, and I look forward to hearing from you. Bye.
The Force will be with you, always.
My nerd world.